And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host Kenneth Gruenfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Thursday, February 22nd. We have a lot to talk about on the show today. But before I get into that, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate and get your comments recognized, make sure to go to the following link. That is streamelements.com/GSMCsportsnetwork./tip. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is streamelements.com/GSMCsportsnetwork./tip. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker on the bottom of the show segment down below. So, with that being said, let's get into what we are going to talk about for today. So we're going to start off the show. We're going to talk about more Justin Fields, because I know that's kind of been a hot topic, not just on my show, but on other shows here on the GSMC Sports Network as well. We'll talk about his recent comments on the St. Brown podcast, the St. Brown brothers and their podcast. So we'll talk about that. Then for the second part of the show, we'll actually talk about the Philadelphia Eagles and some stuff I was reading about the impact of their security guard on the sidelines, Big Dom. So we'll talk about that and Nick Sirianni as well. Then we'll talk about some risk-reward free agents. There was an article on Bleacher Report that had some players that are going to be free agents listed, so we'll talk about that. And then in the final part of the show, we will get into talking about Justin Jefferson and his contract situation and what could transpire there. So that's the rundown for the show for today. So let's get into the first topic, which is talking about Justin Fields and what he had to say on the St. Brown Brothers podcast. So obviously, I think I did bring this up, that Justin Fields unfollowed the Bears on Instagram, and he started following players on the Falcons, and he was asked about this, and he said how he's going on vacation and he doesn't want any NFL, any Bears stuff on his timeline. So that's what he said regarding that. But what he also said was, they asked if he wants to stay in Chicago, and this is what he had to say, and this is from an article on NFL.com. He said, "Yeah, of course I want to stay." And then he said, "If it was up to me, I would stay in Chicago. I love the city. The city's lit. The fans there, they're great, but it's a business. I got no control over it, so whatever happens, happens." And then he also said, "I feel like the biggest thing with all of this going on right now is I just want it to be over. Just let me know if I'm going to be traded. Let me know if I'm staying." And then regarding the social media stuff, he said, "Why do people take social media so seriously? I'm just trying to take a little break. I unfollowed the Bears and the NFL accounts. I'm just trying not to have any football on my timeline. I'm about to go on vacation. I don't want to see football." And then I guess they did ask him about the Falcons, and he said, "I think they got a lot of playmakers on the team, of course. Bijan Robinson, they got Kyle Pitts, and then, of course, Drake London, too. They probably need one more receiver, but they definitely got some guys over there. The defense was good this year, too." So that's basically what he had to say, regarding the trade rumors and why he unfollowed the Bears. But yeah, I mean, I kind of understand. You just want it to be over because this happens a lot. It's just you hear these trade rumors in the media, and they go on for a while, and you're saying to yourself, when is this ever going to end? Well, who knows when it's going to end? I mean, it's ultimately going to be. It's going to come down to the Bears and, whether they want to keep Fields or if they're going to, want to take a quarterback with the number 1 overall pick. But again, I mean, if they do the third option, which is you keep Fields and you draft a quarterback, that would be a huge mistake. That would be a huge mistake. And I mean, listen, I think. It's tough what the better option is, because if you go and you trade Fields and you draft another quarterback, well, you knew what you had in Fields. Now this is the unknown when you're drafting a quarterback. What are they going to be like at the NFL level? Now, again, I think the Bears have they're building a nice supporting cast on offense. I talked about this, and they still have a top 10 pick outside of the number 1 overall pick. They have 2 top 10 picks. Um, so they could always draft another, playmaker on offense. The team was improving, in the second half of the season, and Fields looked better as opposed to the first couple games of the year, and it looked like the Bears were going to have one of the worst records in the NFL, but they turned it around. Um, Now, in Fields' last game at Soldier Field, I mean, the fans were chanting for him. I think I don't know. It's interesting because there's probably some fans that don't want Fields, and then there's definitely fans like the ones that I just said were chanting for him that they want him to stay. Um, it's a tough call, but again, you got the number one overall pick, and look, you could get a major haul for that, and you know, um, trade down and get more picks out of that, and then address some other areas on your team. But if you want to hit the reset button and draft another quarterback, one of these top quarterbacks, again, that's also another option too. But again, I know how he when he said he doesn't understand why people take social media so seriously. Yeah, I mean, you should know this by now. That is how people are. It's everywhere. I mean, it's not even just like in sports, but it's celebrities. Like if you see like a celebrity unfollow somebody, you're like, oh, that's not good. It's just that's what people do. They just overanalyze things, and even if it's nothing, I mean, he said it was basically nothing. He's like, I don't want to see that, but I mean, he could also be lying. That's also the other thing too. But yeah, I mean, listen, he should understand that people do take it seriously, and that's never gonna go away. That's just the age that we live in. Is with social media, people just take things way too seriously. But they overanalyze by you simply just unfollowing somebody, unfollowing an account, and that's news. But we've seen that. I mean, we see when players are looking for new contracts, they they unfollow their teams, and you're just like, well, that player's gone. It's just, or they like delete posts of them, in the uniform, and that's another way the people analyze things. Like, oh yeah, he's definitely not going to be on our team next year, But yeah, I mean, again, this is something that we'll keep an eye on with Justin Fields. I mean, the Falcons. I know that's been the one team that's kind of been in the news a lot. I mean, I know also with the Steelers, Mike Tomlin spoke highly of Fields as well. Had some positive comments about Fields. So, but it doesn't seem like the Steelers are going to go that route. But yeah, I mean, this is something we'll see what ends up happening. But I think again, if you're the Bears, yeah, don't do both. You either keep one, you keep the pick and you trade Fields, or you trade the pick and you you get rid of Fields. Um, right? I said that. I said that right. Yeah, you keep the pick, trade Fields, or you keep Fields and you trade the pick. That's yeah. So I don't know. I mean, we'll just have to wait and see. But um, I mean, I honestly think I really don't know what to think because again, there's the unknown with if you draft a quarterback, and if you keep Fields. I mean, listen, I thought Fields played better, when he came back from the injury, but at the same time, I don't think he's an elite quarterback. I think as a runner, he's elite. Um, it's just he's got some things he's got to work on. Um, Again, played better, but I don't know what I don't know how far the Bears could go with Fields. But again, I mean, you draft another quarterback. Who knows what happens there? The Bears have kind of been in that constant cycle when it comes to drafting quarterbacks. I mean, you go back to when they traded up for Mitchell Trubisky. I mean, look what that turned out to do. Nothing. They I mean, 2018 was like their best shot because but that had more to do with their defense. I mean, Trubisky did have a good year, but that was because of their defense. Their defense was one of the best defenses in the NFL that year. Um, and eventually they moved off of Trubisky, and then you get Fields, and yeah, I mean, we'll just have to see what ends up happening. But it's a big decision, and I think again, if you keep both and you draft a quarterback, I think that's a mistake because you want to address other areas. Um, you know, so but only time will tell. Only time will tell. I mean, listen, you got quarterbacks that are available via trade. I mean, you also got the free agents at quarterback, and this is a QB class that teams are going to be looking to try to get these quarterbacks as well. So within the first two picks might be quarterbacks. So it's the QB carousel. We talk about the coaching carousel. We talked about the coaching carousel a lot. Well, the quarterback carousel. That's another carousel to keep an eye on as well. And listen, I mean, the Bears are that one of the teams that they gotta make a big decision. So, we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, I mean that's my thoughts on it. I mean, we didn't really get anything um, groundbreaking. But listen, he basically said, "Look, I unfollowed the Bears, I unfollowed the NFL just because I want to take a break." Which, again, you can understand that. Um, so, um, but yeah, there wasn't anything noteworthy. I guess that's what I wanted to say. But yeah, I mean, listen, he wants it to be over, and I get that. But this is going to get dragged out for a little longer. So, um, you know, we'll see what ends up happening there. But yeah, so actually, something else I wanted to touch upon. So tomorrow, interesting thing here. So tomorrow we're gonna have a half-hour show with the football podcast, but also, so I'm gonna have my hour show, but it's basically gonna be divided up into two parts. So at 10 o'clock Eastern time, or 10:30 a.m. Eastern time, I am going to be streaming the GSMC baseball podcast for one more time. Um, I will be streaming it with the new GSMC baseball host Sam. He's been doing a good job. He's been starting his shows the last couple of weeks. So I'm gonna do a half-hour show with him because that's gonna be the last time I ever, as the host of the as a host of the GSMC baseball podcast. That's gonna be the last time I ever host that show. So that'll be for a half hour, and then for the second half, the second part, I'm going to be doing a half-hour show of the GSMC football podcast. So basically, from 10:30 to 11 is going to be baseball, and then I'll be a little quick break, and then to set everything up and change everything I have here. Then I'll come back and stream the football podcast for a half hour. So that's how tomorrow's going to go. So make sure to tune in for that. Again, it'll be the final time that I host the GSMC baseball podcast because that's how I started out, is doing baseball, and then I was switched over to football, and listen, a lot of changes here, and everybody's doing a great job. Again, happy it's not just you got different perspectives now on different things. It's not just me, which is good. Everybody's been doing a good job with that. But yeah, so that's tomorrow. So tomorrow, half-hour show of the GSMC baseball podcast, and then a half hour of the GSMC football podcast. So that's what's happening tomorrow. So I hope you guys tune in for that. It should be good. But yeah, so with that being said, so obviously, yeah, I mean, I basically said everything I needed to say about Fields. So when we come back from our first break, we'll talk about, a team we actually really haven't talked about in a while, and that's the Philadelphia Eagles. And we're going to talk about Big Dom's impact on the Eagles and kind of what went on after he got suspended from the sidelines. So that's what we will get into when we come back from our first break of the show. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.